So, like most people, believe I discovered combat sports through Bruce Lee. I mean, you watch these Bruce Lee movies and that's what you want to do. You don't really know the realities of combat sports, and that's what happened with me. So I believe that, if I trained a couple of years, I would probably learn how to fight like Bruce Lee. And that's how it all started. And I started with what was available, which was karate. So I trained in karate for about 3.5 years. And after a couple of years, you realize that, the movements that they teach you in traditional martial arts may not be very applicable for a real life street situation or even any kind of physical confrontation for that matter. So that's when I shifted to Krav Maga. I did that for about 1.5 years. And at that point, I started looking for a little bit of more realistic sports activity where there was more contact, because in Krav Maga they would teach us these techniques which were really dangerous to do against another partner. For example, eye gouges or breaking the fingers and all. So you were just drilling them. You were not really doing them at 100%. And I was reading up on the internet, and that's when I found mixed martial arts. And exactly at that point of time, I had moved to Bombay to do my MBA. And I realized, I was just surfing the net, and I realized that Jitendra Khare at that point of time had opened up his MMA gym, which was called Evolution. So I gave him a call one of the days. I said, listen, I want to train in mixed martial arts, so can I come over and try out? So he said, yeah, sure, just come over. And that's where the whole story started. And I discovered mixed martial arts, and I've been hooked ever since. So as for the experience for my first fight, I still remember it was on 31st of October, because it was the day after my birthday. So I remember we had gone to the gym, we got a nice cake and we celebrated. I come back to the hostel, because that time I was in college, and I get a call from Mr. Jitendra Khare saying, how would you like to fight tomorrow? And I was like, do you think I'm ready? So he said, yeah, I mean, you are as ready as you'll ever be with this kind of training. So just take it. I mean, it'll be fun. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, if you say so, let's do it. And so I walked into the gym next day. I didn't sleep the whole night because I was just tense about my first amateur fight. And I walk in, and there's a whole crowd, because we were doing this event at that point of time called Gym Wars, which was one of the first amateur MMA competitions, I believe, that were being held in Mumbai. So I walk in, and there's a huge crowd, and he introduces me to my opponent, who at that point of time already had a couple of fights, so he was more experienced. And that's when I learned about the whole emotional roller coaster of the fight nerves. You're so nervous before a fight, you don't want to fight, and then once the fight starts, it all settles down. So yeah, I don't remember much of what happened once the fight started, but I just remember that both of us were really exhausted, and at one point after a break, my opponent didn't want to come out of his corner, and so I won by default. As for being the oldest member of Team Relentless, it really just happened organically. There wasn't anything that I did special to become a part of Team Relentless. If you look at any form of martial arts, combat sports, most people just don't make it beyond the first couple of years, and that's the same thing that happened. Jitendra Khare, Vicky sir and me, we've just stayed in the sports for a while, that's all. And I guess if you're just passionate about something and you just stick to it, you'll reach places. That's all that I have to say. So yeah, I've been competing for about 10 years now. And as for my experience with ONE FC, I mean, at that point it was pretty overwhelming, because I just have had a couple of amateur fights, and that also I had never fought in a cage. I had never fought in front of a big crowd. So it was quite a big jump for me. From fighting at Gym Wars to fighting at ONE FC. But I think it's like I got pushed into the deep end of the pool, and that really helped, because nothing that I did after that could ever match the magnitude of that experience. All those people, all that adrenaline, the pressure, everything feels like much smaller after you do that. So I think, yeah, that was a really good start and a good experience for me. What has changed since then? So I guess I have more exposure now, because that time we were just a group of people training with each other, trying to teach each other. It was after 2012 that we really met with legitimate martial arts teachers, jiu-jitsu practitioners, kickboxing coaches, and so it just widens your perspective much more. At that time, we just had a few techniques that we just drilled again and again. I mean, even then we trained hard, but we didn't really have the know-how, and that's what we have now. And also, I believe what the situation, the way it has changed over the years, is that now more people are aware of mixed martial arts. There are more avenues opening up, more competitions. If you're an amateur fighter and you want to compete regularly, then you have, like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 amateur tournaments happening all over India. So the opportunities are much more. And yes, so I believe that right now the knowledge and the opportunities have increased, but that was really a different experience at that point of time. It felt like an underground fight club. And I also remember a lot of people used to just walk into the gym and just challenge us to fight. So that doesn't happen anymore. My best memories of fighting, that will be very difficult to, point out just one, because what I've realized is most athletes, most fighters and coaches, they're pretty nice people outside of the ring, because all of them have been through so much. But if I just had to pick one, I would say that was the 1.5 months that I spent at AKA Thailand, because before that I was just doing this part-time. I would go to work, come back, train maybe 1.5 hours a day. And then we went to AKA Thailand for a month and a half, and it was just eating, sleeping and training. And not just training amongst ourselves, the small group of people who are at Evolution in Bombay, but it was literally, you could train with a new person every day. So training with so many different kinds of people, so many different attitudes, so many different body types, it's a completely different experience. And that was one of those things which, I liked the experience so much that it kind of convinced me to give up my financial consulting career and do this full time, because I wanted to get that experience again and again. The decision to give up my corporate career, initially it was very hard, because when I first started working, I just wanted to do martial arts as a hobby. I did not want to take it up. I did not have any intention to take it up as a full-time career. But what I realized as time went by, I was working for about 5 years, and I realized that I'm enjoying my work less and less, and I'm enjoying training more and more. So till I reached a point where, one of the days I went to office and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And my heart is not in this kind of work. And at that time I was looking at a lot of things, watching a lot of YouTube videos on motivation, on taking risks and all. And like I said, and at that point of time, we also went to AKA Thailand, and so all of that just kind of made me realize that this is what I want to do. And the decision, I would say, at that point of time, I just wanted to do it, take a risk and see how it goes. So yeah, I mean, that's how it happened. One of the biggest problems that I believe I have faced and all the fighters have faced in India and will continue face is the problem of making a living doing just this. I believe all over the world, it's only maybe the top 10% who can make a living out of fighting alone. Most other people, they are making a living from training other people. And sometimes even that is a hard thing to balance, especially when you've got a fight coming up. And you have to run a class and you're exhausted after a hard session because it's fight camp and everybody's trying to kill you, and then you just don't want to run a class after that. Also because this is a new sport, there isn't so much money. So I believe a lot of fighters, they struggle to make money doing just this. So a lot of fighters, they have to say, we are fitness coaches, they take these cardio kickboxing classes instead of just being able to focus on mixed martial arts. And even I have faced that. So that's something that you have to be prepared for. If this is something you want to do, that's just something that comes with the territory. So even if you quit your job to do this, something you must understand is you'll still have two jobs. One of your jobs will be preparing for the fight, and the other job will be training other people to make money. So that's something that everybody should be prepared for. So how the sports has changed over the last couple of years, last 10 years, is that number one, the awareness has obviously gone up. A lot of people are looking at this as a possible career, something that they really want to invest their time in. Also, slowly, I believe a lot of corporate companies are coming up to sponsor these events, because everybody realizes that mixed martial arts is the fastest growing sports in the world, and India needs to catch up. The number of schools has gone up. The number of promotions that are putting up events has gone up. A lot of people are coming in from outside to train Indian fighters. Just the other day I was looking at Instagram, and a lot of BJJ black belts, Muay Thai coaches, they're traveling from outside to India to work with various gyms. So I think that's a great positive impact, because the more knowledge comes in, the more the level of the sports is going to go up. And at the same time, there is also a lot of focus on grassroots level mixed martial arts. Promotions like YFC by Jitendra Khare. What they are doing is they're looking at fighters with very little experience and giving them a platform to come up. And I think that's very important. You can't just focus on the big names, people who have already made a name for themselves, but also on people who are looking for a platform where they can train. And that is coming up right now. There is it's not just a sports for the meatheads anymore. You get a lot of smart people coming into the sports, smart businessmen, smart athletes, which I think will just improve the quality of the sports. Yes, so I'm back in One Warrior series, and honestly speaking, I don't have long-term goals about this. All I want to focus on is just performing to my best. I still have 2 fights with One Warrior series. I would like to perform better than what I did in my last 2 fights, and that's all that I'm thinking about right now. I'm not thinking beyond that, especially after the pandemic. When most of us are out of training. So I just want to get back to training, get back in shape. And whenever the next fight comes up, I just want to perform to my full potential. So that's about it.